I'm going to just throw this out to all three of you to talk a little bit about your career journeys and how you got to be where you are now.
Well, I didn't want to be a CPA. I went to Michigan, and I knew I wanted to do something creative. I knew I wanted to be doing film or television or something in the arts. I did a double major in English and film studies. And honestly, I didn't know what I was going to do. My junior year, I studied abroad, and I did a program through Boston University. And it was the best thing I ever did, honestly. It was an internship. I worked for a company called Heyday Films, and they had just bought the rights to a small book called Harry Potter. It was 1999, and he asked me to read the book, and I was like, it's okay. And he's like, we think it's going to be the biggest thing ever. And I was like, okay. But his name was David Helman, and he was a great, he was my boss at this internship. And I remember after I worked for him, he said, what are you going to do over the summer? And I said, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm going to go home. I'm going to maybe work at a summer camp. I don't know. And he's like, no, you're going to go to New York, and you should get an internship. That's the only way you'll then get a job later. And he set me up with an internship when I got there. It was Green Street Films and Wendy Feinerman Productions, 2 internships. And through those very first internships is how I got every job I've had since then. And I've really only had a couple of jobs, but I got my first job at Miramax Films out of that. Meredith, this woman that I worked with, knew somebody there, and that's how I got connected into there. And from there, I then worked at Miramax for a while, and my next job actually was through my mother, funny enough, through a friend of a friend. She had a daughter who worked at Discovery Communications and ad sales, and she said, just have lunch with her. And I said, Mom, I'm not doing ad sales. She said, just have lunch with her, and so I did, and that actually helped me get my next job. So always go to lunch with whoever is connected to somebody else, because honestly, it really is who you know. And that got me a job at Discovery Communications. I worked in kids. Discovery Kids was my first job. And that was in 2003, and I've been at Discovery since then. Yeah.
Wow, very interesting. Giselle.
I guess maybe there are some similarities. I really came to New York. I had gone to art school, and in that process, I taught myself to edit and to shoot just because that's what I wanted to make. They didn't have that program, a film program, but I wanted to do it. And so when I went to New York, I just tried to kind of give those skills away for free to whoever would have me. And so I started doing internships, later got jobs, of course, while doing other jobs on the side. I've probably worked in almost every position kind of in the film and TV space, in the commercial space, until I found a place in Viceland. And I went from kind of producing a story, so editing and managing post-production, to being in the field. And after I was done with a few shows there, some of those shows, by the way, I was doing 2 jobs at the same time just so that they would let me make lateral moves into more creative positions. And I thought, well, isn't what I'm doing by this point directing? Maybe I should try and direct something. And there was a couple of ideas that I had from people who were on the shows that I was working on at Viceland, and myself, along with a couple other people, including my brother, who at the time was a DP, also now produces and directs. We decided to make a film, and we did. And that was called The Legend of the Underground, which ended up going to HBO. So at a certain point, I think I was kind of following a path and trying to climb a ladder, and then I just kind of jumped, and that's how I started directing.
Wow, Brian.
Wow. They're telling you the right way to do it. Mine's kind of the hot mess version. You ready? Buckle up. Okay. Picture it, 1993, a young Brian Balthazar looking at the world with potential, working at the mall. Williams-Sonoma, didn't know what to do. I went to Syracuse University. They're like, oh, Newhouse is a great school. Didn't go there, went to VPA, didn't get into Newhouse. So I was working at the mall, selling pots and pans. You might know it from Time Warner Center, but I was at the one in Syracuse. Then they transferred, I got into management at Williams-Sonoma, the hot track. They sent me to Buffalo, then they sent me to Boston, and I'm like, this is living, but I don't want to do this for my whole life. I didn't want to work at a mall. So then I quit and said, I'm going to become a writer. Cut to me working on a boat as a waiter, singing and dancing. That was humiliating. I quit, and they're like, we forgive you, you can come back Monday. I'm like, no, like, because they need guys so badly. They're like, we forgive you. No, like, I'm not coming back. And then I worked for an insurance company. That was terrible. And I worked for a trans medium. Do you know who trans mediums are? I haven't had any coffee, by the way. Trans mediums are the people that are like, your sister with the letter B, she's deceased, she died, she got the ring. I worked for one of those. Yeah, that was fun. And then till 28 years old, I didn't get into TV until I was 28. I was writing for a little, kind of little raggedy newspaper in Boston, and I did a profile on a local news anchor in Boston. And when I was there, I saw on the bulletin board, there used to be these things called bulletin boards. Do you remember those? And it said job opportunity, like an overnight writer. And I'm like, I can write overnight. And so I signed up for that job, and I kept working double shifts because I knew that people that could promote me weren't working the overnight. So I kept doing the double shifts. So tried to do what you did. I was like, I'll do some of the daytime stuff to try and move into another project, the special projects division, which is where they do those stories like, your salad bar could kill you tonight at 11. So I did those stories, and I applied for the job, and they didn't give it to me, so I took that tape and I sent it to MSNBC, and they're like, we'll take you. So I drove down to Secaucus in a 20-foot U-Haul and moved to Hoboken. Didn't know you shouldn't drive to Hoboken in a U-Haul that's 20 feet. I'm just like, I'll find parking, That was dumb. And then went from MSNBC to the Today Show, and eventually launched the 4th hour of the Today Show. Now, meanwhile, all the while at the same time, I'm like, I want to be my own boss, so I decided to do stand-up comedy because it was for only 5 minutes a night. I could be my own boss. Nobody can tell me what to do. If you do terribly, you do terribly. If you do great, you do great. So I went from the Today Show then to HGTV, where I stayed 5 years, and then I was like, I want a new chapter. So I went to The View, and I was a co-executive producer of The View. And then I was like, I don't like this that much. So then I went to back to HGTV, and in 2020 I started a production company. And all the while of doing all that production work, the stand-up comedy is what got me into on-camera work and reporting and hosting and things like that, because that was where I could really kind of be my full self, and the producing was where I kind of paid my rent. And that's the short version of the story. Sorry, that was long.
Wow.
And you don't have to ask me any more.
No, you're done. Okay, you can go now. No. I think I see a through line here, and that's say yes, and you never know, just show up. I think what's interesting is it's a real variety, you come from a variety of places in the business. You're out there, Giselle, trying to basically sell an idea, and that you are in a unique position to do it. What's some advice you give to people out here, some of our students out here, about when you go into the room, when you go in to make that pitch, when you have a meeting with someone like Sara to get it done?
Well, I'll begin, but Sara might be like, don't do any of this. I think when I was first starting out and pitching, I had this feeling like, I love this idea, but I wanted to kind of be humble about how I presented it. And that doesn't really work, because you have to sell an idea. You have to show how excited you are about it, why it matters. You have to really be its champion. And so I think for anyone who's feeling any imposter syndrome, sometimes you kind of lean away instead of leaning in to what you're doing. And I would just say, absolutely lean in. I'm curious if there are things that make a big difference to you in the room when someone's selling.
Well, I think it's a good point you're making about leaning in and being really passionate, because I will pick up on that from a producer if somebody feels really excited about an idea. I would say the biggest thing when somebody comes in the room is that they know TLC as a brand. Like, the worst thing you can do in a pitch meeting with me is come in and be like, I don't really watch your channel, but it's like, well, I'm not gonna probably pick up your show. Like, it's just, I feel like sometimes people don't do their research. And so they'll come in and they'll either pitch me something that's been on our air before, or they'll pitch me something that would never be on our air, that wouldn't fit with our programming, like they've just never watched it. And it just feels like so lazy to me. Like, if you're not gonna do anything to look into what the programming is of who you're pitching, why would I wanna pick up your program, right? But if you're coming in and you've watched the shows and you're excited, and then you're pitching me something that would be a compliment to all the shows we do, perfect, right?
I think that's a good point, because the other part of that is you do pitch to the room that you're in. Like, you can't just have kind of a standard and that goes for everybody. You have to explain why it would work for them, which means kind of making tweaks and positioning it so they can kind of see it along their slate. Yeah.
Exactly, like it's personal to HBO, or it's personal to HG, or to TLC, exactly.
It's interesting, too. I'm thinking, Brian, of your career and where you were and where you are now. It sounds like some of that experience in working at Williams-Sonoma, now you're kind of a go-to guy doing shows for lifestyle shows.
Yeah. I think the core message of my early years, at least, was don't let anyone tell you it's too late to start. A good idea is not age-specific. A good idea is dependent on passion, and that's what all of you bring to the table. And also, never more than ever, I would say, never more now. I can't get the word out. What I'm trying to say is, actually, the people in the room that are most ready and able to quickly adapt to changing emerging technology are not sitting on the stage. They're sitting in the audience. Sorry, guys, I don't mean, but knocking your water over. But you are so well equipped to adapt to the changing technology and be ready for it and adapt to it. And in fact, being new to technology is embraced much more in the position that you're in, because you are perhaps, some of you, new to this industry, and they love new ideas and new technology. Put that together, and that's lightning in a bottle, I think.
All of you started really at the bottom. I mean, in those entry-level jobs, being a PA, an intern. What made you able to kind of move up? What was is there a moment? Was there a mentor? Was there somebody? It's kind of a toss-up question here.
I mean, I don't think you can underestimate how the importance of carrying yourself in a meeting and being able to represent other people's ideas well, because, as sometimes you are telling your colleagues what an idea was that someone else told you. So I think your ability to adapt and read a room, and even though maybe I'm not doing it so well tonight, but like generally speaking, I think you can't underestimate the power of confidence and composure and knowing your stuff. You know what I mean? And so, but also a willingness to do more. A lot of the things that I ended up doing, and you kind of alluded to that too, we've done a lot probably for free, and I don't mean give yourself away, but I've done maybe taken on a little bit more responsibility to show that I can do it. And I think initiative, confidence, and willingness and accountability all contribute greatly to moving up.
When you're directing a film, Giselle, and what's that grip or the PA on the project that stands out? Can you think of a story or sometimes where you go, wait, I've got my eye on that person, in the next project, I'm going to tap them to help me out?
I think maybe the common thread, I don't know if I have an exact story, but the common thread would just be, especially on a set, it's like you always need another pair of eyes. I think everyone wants to feel like someone has their back and is going to catch things that you inevitably will miss. So I think attentiveness is really, really important and makes you stand out. that you're not just thinking of yourself, but you're thinking of the team, and that you're thinking ahead. Maybe that seems simple, but I think a lot of the times people are kind of somewhere else or lost in their own thoughts or even sometimes in your own fears. But pushing past that to be present for what's happening and being able to support the people around you, I think, is something that never fails to be memorable, because that's all that I think all of us really need and want.
I think that's a really good point. I always notice like interns on my team or an assistant, somebody who's thinking ahead, right? And it's small stuff, but if I need a conference room, I need to make sure it was booked by somebody, and I need to make sure the Zoom is in there, and I need to make sure, I don't need to make sure of it, I need to make sure whoever I asked to do it just did it, and that they were 2 steps ahead of me, and that they know that the meeting before, they've left some time between so that I'm not going to overlap with a meeting that might run over, or that I can get into that room, or that I had a 15-minute break between. So, like, somebody who's just really thinking ahead. And I've been really lucky to have a team that has done that for me. And I remember even being an intern and knowing that I wanted to make sure I helped my boss, like that their job was easier because I could help them do something that made it easier for them. Whether that was just thinking 2 steps ahead, just always being 2 steps ahead of them. Making sure the phone numbers are right, small stuff, but right, I was printing out this was when you would printing out their emails, putting on their desk, highlighting stuff, making sure they knew who they had to call back, their call log was on their desk. Just always being ahead of them so that they didn't have to ask me or think about it.
That's great advice. Brian, you're kind of unique in the panel that you're behind the camera, front of the camera. Which do you enjoy more?
I think both sides make me better at the other respective thing. I really love great producers, so there's something really wonderful about walking onto, I think is it terrible to say? I think sometimes it's harder to be the producer that has to have everything lined up and everything all working and everything's on schedule and all the people in their proper places. So sometimes when I walk onto a show or a set, that's where I can really have fun. I enjoy that because I get to like be witness to all of these wonderful things happening, and I get to then be myself, hopefully. Hopefully that's what they want, if that's what they want from me. So that's really fun. I stress out much more being a producer simply because then that's me trying to make sure all those things are lining up. So I think I get more stress from being a producer, but both of them had made me better at doing the other thing.
Probably gives you a really good perspective on dealing with talent.
Oh yeah, and I feel like I'm very easy talent because I know what it can be like if you're, how do I put this? I've worked with talent that were difficult, and sometimes warranted, and other times that I thought wasn't quite as warranted. And I think it's made me appreciate all the work that producers do so much because of having been on that side as well.
Giselle, you mentioned, I think you used the word imposter syndrome, the phrase. And I see too, all of you work with some like big names. Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry. Hello, is there, how do you get over that kind of just being intimidated? Or just saying, we're here to work?
I don't get over my feelings of being intimidated, because it is intimidating, to be in front of those kind of veterans. But I also know that I have a job to do, and part of that is to make them feel comfortable. And I think one thing that has been made clear to me, there was someone that I was interviewing, and I said something that kind of seemed like they didn't have feelings or they were fine. And they said, no, I'm always nervous. I have to present and perform. That's my job, right? And so it made me realize that, okay, so what I need to do is be focused not on myself, but on the person that I'm sitting in front of, who actually is the one in front of the camera and has a huge responsibility to perform and to be their full selves, and that's might be fun, but also quite taxing. So that's kind of where I place my mind, is I just pivot it to how I need to kind of be of service, and then also what it is I'm trying to understand and learn about the person I'm in front of.
Sara, can you build on that a lot? Because, a lot of your shows are built on big personalities.
Yes. It's funny, I do the development side, so I'm not in front of the talent in the same way Giselle is, or Brian. But yeah, we have a lot of talent, and talent, not in the first season, but in seasons after can be difficult. We're lucky to have a really great press team, a really great talent management team that helps us with that. I don't interface with the talent as much in that sense. But to your point, right? Everybody's got a job to do. I feel like my job is like trying to make other people's jobs easier, right? Like as a team player, like I'm just trying to make their job easier too. But I'm just lucky that I don't have to do the same kind of stuff that you two do, probably, in the same way.
And as you were saying, you've built your entire career really at the same company, but it's a very different company than the one you started at. A couple
Yes.
big mergers.
Just a few.
Yeah.
I started in 2003 at Discovery, right? And I was at Discovery Kids, which doesn't exist now. But I did kids programming, and at the time, we were part of NBC's morning block of shows. So we did Endurance and Darcy's Wildlife and Flight 29 Down, like all these kids shows. It was really fun. And then my boss, Marjorie Kaplan, was tapped to take over Animal Planet at the time. And that was in 2006. It was right after Steve Irwin died. And we had to do a whole rebranding. And she brought a bunch of us over to work on that brand. And then I was there for a while. And funny enough, I then went to Food Network for a little bit. I knew somebody, again, through one of my internships. It was still a connection, a personal connection, who had reached out to me at the time and said, do you want to come over to Food Network? It was before Scripps and Discovery had merged. So I went to Food Network for a little bit and was there, and it just wasn't a fit for me. Just sometimes you get at a job and it just isn't. I love food. I loved food programming. I just realized once I was there that Discovery was a better fit for me. I called up my old boss and I was like, is there any job for me? And he said yes. He was like, come back. So I ended up coming back and working at Destination America, which was a new kind of travel channel brand there. And then we acquired Scripps. So everyone I'd worked with at Scripps then was part of Discovery. And then most recently we've merged with Warner Brothers. And now there's an uncoupling with Warner Brothers, and who knows what will happen. But yeah, that's the other thing, right, with work. I've been at the company for 20-something years, but it's been very different. Like every year, it's been really different in a good way and in a way that you really have to be like ready for change. It's like riding a wave, right? Sometimes you have a good year, sometimes it's a challenging year. And I guess a lot of my philosophy has been like, put my head down, just keep working, do my job, do the best I can do at my job, because that's the only thing I can control, right? I can't control all this other stuff happening. So I'm just like, let me just do the best job I can do, and hopefully I just, knock on wood, keep my job.
With all three of you, it sounds like having a really good sense of self and being willing to take the leap has played a major part in your success. I think of that too. Brian, you were co-executive producer of The View. that's franchise.
Yeah.
And you said adios.
I think, I did. And I think, sense of self doesn't happen overnight, by the way. Mine certainly didn't, But I think at that particular moment in time, and I joked about it earlier, but I did like it, but I did find out that I liked long form, meaning HGTV, more in that moment. And I really thought hard about, do I want to leave so soon? Because I thought about the external messaging and what that would look like and what people would think. And then I realized, at the end of the day, you are not what other people think of you. You are who you are. And it took a bit of courage to do it, but I am all about happiness first. And we don't always have the luxury. Sometimes we have to do a job we don't love for a little while, like that's okay. And your first job may not be the job. We always want the next, not even your first job, the next job. You think that's gonna be the job that's great in every way. Very few jobs check every box. But there are so many things you can learn from it, and a connection you could make from it. You may learn something about yourself, if only that you prefer something else. I have a great relationship, and I love ABC, and I had a great time with the people there. I just thought, wait, I think I liked this other thing more, and life is short, and I'm gonna go do that thing again. So I was fortunate enough to be able to make that choice. We don't always have the choices. We don't always have the option to make those choices. In that moment, I did, so I went for it.
Wow, that's great. Do you have a similar experience, Giselle, with that, where you were feeling pretty secure in what you were doing, but there was like a passion project and you wanted to take that next big step?
I can't remember the last time I felt secure in as an independent director. Everything feels like a leap of faith. Maybe, yeah, I was working in commercials, and which was really interesting because I was working in visual effects and animation and editing, and I had just come out of college, and so it felt very similar to the process of being in a critique for like 6 hours, and it was fun, and there was a lot that I learned as a producer that I still use today, and it's a lot of the network that I had then that I am still kind of in collaboration with now. But yeah, I did decide I wanted to do something different, and I wanted it to be more reflective of my life, the life experiences that I wanted, the things I was curious about, and the things I cared about. And I wanted to be in more of a creative position. And so, yeah, I did take that leap into freelancing. And I think, for me, I don't know if there's a trick. I actually sometimes really appreciate people who can just stick with something, whether they like it or not. I think for me, a lot of what I do is really tied to even my spirituality, and it's like if it feels incongruent, it's hard for me to sit in it and remain happy and healthy. And so there have been times, certainly, that's been a driving force, because yes, sometimes you have to pay your bills, and so you might still be doing one thing for that, but I've always needed to be reaching for the thing that I felt would make me happy. So where does that come from? I don't know.
We're going to go to Q&A in a few minutes, but before we do, I'd like to ask all three of you this. What would you be telling like your 19 or 20-year-old self now if you were in college, given what the media landscape, the media and entertainment landscape looks like now? What would the best piece of advice you can give? We've hit on a couple things. You mentioned the internship, creating your network with people. What's something else?
I would say something that I didn't have, and maybe why I took 8 years out of college to get started, was that I encourage you all to, if you have a dream, if you have a passion, if you have something you want to do, say it out loud. You can start by saying it to yourself, and then say it to other people unashamedly. I used to think it was somehow embarrassing to say I wanted to be on TV. Say what you want to do out loud, and say it to other people, because you never know if the person you're saying it to can help you and would love to help you. And I know we're in a crazy time in the entertainment business. Listen to your gut. Your goals can change. I know we sometimes say, I'm going to move to New York City and I'm going to do this. And you may decide you don't love New York City, but you can still do this somewhere else. So a dream and a goal can be fluid, and it can adapt, and it can course correct. It is a journey. So say what you want, Don't be afraid to ask for help. If they say no, it's okay, but you asked. But you'll be surprised at the number of people who will be happy to help. I think that's my short. I can't say anything in short answer, but that's my shortest answer.
That was pretty concise.
Okay, good. Okay.
Sarah?
I guess, I feel like I was very lucky. I think about my 19-year-old self and think, oh, I grew up in Ohio, and my parents were just like, yeah, you want to move to New York? Like, go to New York. Let's see if that works out. You want to work in TV or film? Like, go try that out. And they never said, don't do that, or that's not going to work out, or you're not going to make enough money to live in New York. And I think that really stuck with, like, I just remember thinking, I'm going to do these jobs until it's not working for me, until I'm not making enough money maybe to survive here, or I'm not happy doing it. And I feel really grateful that my parents gave that to me, the belief that I could just try what I wanted to do, and just like, I didn't know I'd be where I was. I just was like, I'm gonna be an assistant. So I was an assistant to somebody, and then I did that for several years, and then I was a coordinator, and I think it was slow and steady, and I feel like my parents never were like, do you want to look into another job? Like, should you be a lawyer or should you be a doctor? They were just like, you like doing this, like you should just keep doing it. And I guess that sense of, if you like it and if you believe you're good at it and you want to be doing that, and that's like up to both of your points of being happy, like just keep doing it. Because I think once you're really, like, if you're good at something and you like doing it, I do believe that it will work out, that things will work out.
Those are all very good advice. Like the advice I probably need to apply right now. I guess kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying with say the thing that you want to do, I also would say just also do it, because I spent a lot of time wanting to do certain things, but feeling like maybe did I have the resources, or even just did I have the knowledge to be able to execute it in the way that I wanted to. And a lot of that was just holding me back from actually doing the thing, because ultimately I think in this industry, yes, there will be people who you can find who are mentors, and yes, you should be learning from people along the way, but also people just want to see what they want to hire you for. And so at a certain point, just making things or putting yourself in a position to be in a role, even if it's on a much smaller scale, I think is very meaningful. So I think I would have done a lot of more of that sooner.
If I can, I'm going to piggyback right back on that. And don't worry about it being a little messy at first. Like, every dancer, every athlete, they didn't have perfect form right away, but they had to start somewhere. And never have we had more resources at our disposal to create content. Get a YouTube account. It's the largest content platform there is right now, and anyone can have a channel, even if you don't use it. This is a place to play, and you can use your phone, but don't be like, oh, I need a drone. I can't do this project until I have a drone. No, just do the version that you have, and know that you can get better as you go. But I wouldn't wait for it to be perfect. Waiting for perfection is a long, long wait. So don't be afraid to be a little messy at first. Look, I'm still messy now. Look at me.
And before you ask your question,
Okay.
please tell us your name and affiliation.
Alexander Voldavsky, no college affiliation, none. This is more a question for all three of you, but Brian, you mentioned specifically that you started your own production company in the year 2020. And as everyone knows here, 2020, okay, yeah.
Like, perfect timing.
I know.
Waiting for perfection, right? It started with ideas and relationships that I had, and I found a production company that I could partner up with that had the infrastructure. And you can do that too. Production companies right now are looking for great ideas, and many of them are open and willing to pair up with someone who can be part of the creative team. Obviously, they take a cut so that they can keep their lights on, obviously. But that is a great way to get into the business, and having a small shingle, yes, absolutely, and start, and it can only grow from there. Yes.
Okay, one small question.
Oh, I interrupted him in his defense. I didn't really let you finish.
For all three of you made the leap of faith to try to start your own independent process at one point in your life. Who are the people that you looked for around you to really support that independent process come to life?
Do you just want to keep going?
Well, I guess I've always been lucky, or I guess I should say, because I feel like you make your own luck. I will say that. So I think I have tried to find what is best in a boss that I've worked with. Like, what can I take away from that boss, right? If I'm going to be doing this job and I'm going to be doing it for at least a year, what can I learn from this boss? Because, right, we're stuck together. And I feel lucky that I've been able to really learn from every boss I've ever had. For better or worse, right? Some bosses were easier to work with than others. But by the way, sometimes when you have a really difficult boss, like learning how to manage up is a really good skill to have. Learning how to read a room, really good skill to have. There's like soft skill, right? There's the hard skills and there's soft skills. And I feel like I've always tried to really learn from the bosses, but also to, right, like the people around you. I remember my first boss saying, you might be my boss in X amount of years. So also paying attention to the people around you and like what I've noticed that they do really well in a room. Oh, that was really good how they did that. Or they were really diplomatic about how they gave criticism. I really like how that person did that. I'm going to adopt that. Or to really try and pay attention to what you like and what you don't like from your bosses and your colleagues, I think is something that was important for my career and, you know, would be good probably for everybody to pay attention to.
Do you want me to answer as well? Absolutely. So support you when you take a leap, is that kind of the question? Well, for me, I guess I would have to say my family has been, it's been, I guess I have a very specific journey in that I work very closely with my brother, who's a director as well, but has DP'd most of the projects that I've done. And also kind of a group of collaborators that I've met along the way. And I think that's been a really rewarding experience because they're not necessarily charmed or looking for, you know, the next best director. They just need to work with that person. Like we've built kind of a collective together and learned together and pushed each other. And that relationship has been really rewarding. So I think in addition to the people that are kind of mentors to you, picking the people who will kind of be on your boat as you're sailing through the industry can be good as well.
And pop me a message on LinkedIn, and you know, people will set up a time or something if you want 10 minutes to talk about your idea. I'm happy to do that.
Right,
Like for real, yeah. For like LinkedIn, just message me on LinkedIn.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. I feel so blessed. All right, thank you.
Thanks. Hi.
Hey.
Oh, on the yellow X, thank you.
Oh, now I can hear you.
I'm Dominic. Thank you for setting this up and all of you for taking the time to chat with us here today. I graduated from Syracuse in May.
Congrats.
Thank you. And now I'm, here in the city doing the thing. And you guys have all kind of talked a little bit about, just doing things and just, consistently creating things outside of like a day job and things like that. And so for those of us that are kind of still looking for the first job to break in here in the city, I'm curious what you think is like the best thing that we can do with our time to keep kind of growing our skills, grow an audience, and like demonstrate relevant skills, whether it's like making social media videos, getting an office administration job that isn't in the entertainment industry. I'm curious if you guys have recommendations for what's like the best use of our time while we're looking for a job.
Anyone?
I would say, again, having worked, I'm just going to speak from my experience, network experience. I do informational interviews. I would contact anybody that you think is interesting at a job that you think is interesting. Again, using LinkedIn or using whatever. I've never said no to anybody who's reached out to me for an informational. I would reach out to anyone you think is interesting and just build your network that way, start that way. And I mean at networks, but also at production companies, commercial companies, wherever, anyone that you think has an interesting job and you want to learn more about it, set an informational meeting. That would be one thing I would say would be something to keep yourself busy.
What field do you have a certain niche that you're looking to specifically, or are you aiming broadly? Do you have a thought on?
There's a few different things I'm interested in, but part of the reason I came to this is I really like unscripted stuff like docuseries, documentaries. I've kind of PA'd on a couple of those before.
Okay, so obviously keep watching the things that you're interested in and watch the credits.
Yeah.
The credits at the end is the production company, and not every production company posts their jobs on their website. Companies are terrible about listing their jobs on their websites. So don't assume that a company doesn't have an opening just because their website doesn't have it or because it's not on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's just, they're just not doing that. So especially small production companies. So reach out to their executive producers, reach out to their president, their head of production, or, try and find their email format. And it's not that hard a lot of times. So I would look at those slates at the end pretty closely and see it. That's a great source of outreach. And you're watching TV at the same time. It's work, Mom. So that's my thought.
Hi, I'm Monica. I have a background in TV news, and I'm interested in getting into unscripted reality TV documentaries. I came specifically to ask this question, so I'm excited. So, where exactly do you apply for freelance or full-time PA, producer, production jobs in unscripted reality TV or documentaries? So I haven't really seen them in traditional job boards, and I wanted to know more about that and how can you make your application stand out from the rest?
Here we go. Have you been on Mandy? Mandy.com? And I mean, we've gotten some of our APs. That's the website. I don't know if you've ever used it, but.
Yeah, I've used it, but I haven't seen a lot.
Well, I don't know if there's a resume service on there. Like if there's a place to post your resume on there, we posted job. I would check that a lot.
Okay.
But what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, it's funny, I don't know the different websites, but I would say, to make yourself stand out, what I would say, again, I go back to these, I do think this is a business of knowing somebody or knowing people. Okay. And so I think the more you can create a network and meet with people, do outreach, try and get yourself, right? You're a piece of paper until you're in front of somebody, and then you can connect with them. And when you connect with them, to have done your research, look them up on LinkedIn, look up their credits, look what they've done, watch everything on their network or their films that they've done or the work that they've acted in. Just know your audience when you go in there, because then you will make an impression on them, right? You will have done your homework and they will be impressed by that. Okay. I do think it's just one of these businesses where people connect that, there's still that human personal connection. I think when you're sending a resume in on one of these things, I do think it's really hard for somebody to oh, Monica, there's 10 Monicas and they all went to NYU and they all did an internship. They just won't remember you until they can connect with you. So I do think that as much as you can get in front of people and build your network, that to me is going to be the most important thing.
Yeah, and if you can't get a sit down with somebody, then at least I think translate that advice into the cover letter. Make sure that whatever you're putting in there shows that you specifically care about what they do and how you can plug into that versus anything that feels kind of standard or like a template.
Okay.
One other thing I would suggest, see that Made in New York logo up there? The Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment has a PA program, a training program. So I would check out their website and see what you got there too. They're a great organization and they can help.
Okay, but were there any other resources besides Mandy though? Just in terms of
I would think also what Giselle referred to earlier is making content that you can show as journal, short form that you can put on a special account on TikTok or Instagram. I think it shows you're that much further ahead when you get in the door to say, this is what my storytelling looks like, and it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have, I just think seeing a sense of who you are on social media is really a valuable tool that we didn't have when we started. I guess I didn't.
There are also some listservs and groups. So Brown Girls Doc Mafia, Women in Film. If you look for those kinds of groups, a lot of them have weekly emails saying here are some opportunities, filmmaker opportunities. But yes, to your point, I think the reality is that it's quite thin in comparison to a lot of other industries, and a lot of it does have to do with just reaching out to companies and meeting with them to then see what's there. But do look for some of those groups.
Okay, you said Brown Girl.
Doc Mafia, like documentary, Doc Mafia, and Women in Film. I'll think a little bit more. I may have some more for you after this.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. If I can reach out to any of you for additional questions.
Yeah.
Monica,
course.
just so you know who it was.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Hi, panel. Thank you all for being here tonight, first of all. My name is Samantha. I am a freshman at Pace University studying communication and media studies. And I was wondering, you all get probably a ton of stories to you. I'm wondering if there is a risk factor in any of those stories that you've possibly produced or that you don't even put on the table, that you don't even attempt to put in a show. What are the risk factors? What are the sacrifices that you make?
Can you tell me a little more what you mean by risk factor or sacrifice?
Financial risks, people that won't come across to an audience well, or, is there like someone that just doesn't want to work with you, that kind of thing?
I think that I've taken a lot of creative leaps and risks, I guess, in terms of just maybe there not being certain subjects or characters that would seem conventional for the form, and just having faith and believing in it and putting them in there. I imagine there must be a lot of that for you guys to.
I mean, if I were pitching you, I would be mindful, and I know at a network, they're mindful of, like a series, they're gonna do a background check on the people that are featured in that series to see, I can't speak on your behalf.
Oh, boy, we will.
But like, I've worked at places where we're looking to see what they're saying on social media, and if it's, sometimes volatile behavior, have they been arrested for horrible things, And so for for an unscripted show, that's a very real thing because it's a representation of the network in the eyes of the general public. Oh, this network, fill in the blank network, put this person on a TV show and made them a star, and they have done something horrific in real life. So that's one of the things. Now, if you're doing a documentary, often documentaries follow horrific people. Like, crime documentaries or where murders have taken place. Like these are following somewhat, some often terrible storylines. So I think that the answer really lies in what medium it's about, where that's living. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's my initial response to what you were saying. Is that kind of what you were asking?
You got it. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, thanks. Glad I could kind of help. Hi.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Curtis. I'm a recent graduate from Morgan State University and emerging archival producer.
Cool.
I wanted to ask, especially in the documentary space with cuts to public programming and China, just like how tumultuous it has been this year, like what is your advice to young creatives, recent grads, kind of navigating this industry, things to look out for, I guess in this weird time?
Yes. Correct.
Yeah.
It's true, but also it's now and not necessarily forever. And so I have been, I guess I give you the same advice I give myself. I went to MICA, by the way, very close to it, yeah. Is to look for some of these organizations that have been very, very long-lasting and they've weathered the storm. I would reach out to some of those people with some of those questions, but also look to those organizations to just see how they're navigating. And I'm thinking of off the top of my head, just because I just look them up, like the Ford Foundation has been around for forever, right, as an example. And also they give grants. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize is you can build relationships with the organizations that give grants to have a better understanding of what they're looking for, and to be able to have more kind of one-on-one conversations to help you be in the forefront of their mind for that kind of thing. So when the industry might not be buying as much, grant support could be very, very helpful. Otherwise, I think the advice is kind of the same as it would be at any other time. It's like, maybe the only thing to also keep in mind is just don't let the discouragement kind of paralyze you, because it will never, that's not going to help. So you might just have to go twice as hard, 5 times as hard, 100 times as hard, but that's what you're just going to have to do. But it's not that you necessarily have to do something different. I think it really is about building the relationships, being bold about getting in front of people, messaging them. That can be intimidating sometimes, but you just have to do it. And being very clear about what you want to do. Like I want to be an archival producer. It's like, great. That's really helpful to know, because it allows any of us to immediately be like, oh, well, I have an archival need, or I know someone who's an archivist, and then it helps you get more kind of valuable insight and help versus just kind of generalities.
And I do think the one thing that the demand for stories is never going to go away. Great, powerful stories. Right now, we're in a place where we don't know where they're going to be told necessarily. That's the part that's kind of in a shift currently. So it's never, there's more of a demand to hear a great story and see a great story than ever. It's just what's settling is the business side of where these stories live and how we watch them and where we watch them. Whether we watch them horizontally or vertically. Like, all these things are really changing, but you will endure and thrive in these shifts. I really do think you're in a great position as a young creative to enter into this world with a really in a great position. I do think you're in a great position. I know it feels weird right now because it's weird for everybody, but you're well suited to enter into this with eyes wide open, and you will overcome this kind of tumultuous time, like we all will. We just have to stay the course and keep pushing and keep searching for great stories and being passionate about great stories.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations, by the way.
Hello. Hi. My name is Katema. I graduated a long time ago. So I've been a freelance producer for like 4 years now. Before I ask my question, I know someone was asking before. One of the things that I've found a lot of jobs on is Facebook, believe it or not. So join a bunch of groups as much as you can, because that's how I got my first AP job, was on Facebook. And Production Hub, make sure you do that too. Thank you for Seen and Heard, because it reminded me of why I got in the field in the first place. And I'm just curious, I just wanted to pick your brain. You've been in development for years now. The industry has changed a lot in years. So what are the new things that you are looking for in a pitch that you weren't looking for 20 years ago, 10 years ago?
That is a good question. You know what? I wouldn't say it's changed on what I've been looking for, but what I will say is and I remember my first boss telling me this, there's 5 original ideas, and we're just ideating on them. So we are trying to figure an original spin on something. And, right, we do a lot of stuff that actually is very similar. And there's a lot of stuff out there that's very similar. So when I'm looking at pitches, I'm trying to really think about, how is this gonna stand out in like the white noise that is the TV market? What does the poster look like? How's my press gonna sell it? What's the headline? What makes this different from every other dating show, right? I get pitched a lot of dating shows. How is this not The Bachelor? How does this feel TLC? What is it about it, right? MILF Manor, when we got pitched that, I was like, this feels TLC. Nobody's doing MILF Manor, nobody's gonna pick this up. But we could do it, because we kind of have a little bit of a naughty sense to us, and we are different, and I had been seeing so many intergenerational dating shows, but I didn't see MILF Manor, then I was like, that feels different. And so I think whenever I'm looking at pitches, how is it gonna stand out? And how am I then going to pitch it to my boss that it feels something different? So I'm always looking for that unique spin, right? I feel like sometimes I get these pitches and I'm positive somebody just put it in AI, and like they've given me the rundown and they've picked out pictures from AI, and it's probably that one I'm not paying attention to. I'm paying attention to something that has a person in it that's really interesting. They shot a video reel of casting that's really got my attention. They have a really interesting title. All of those things that are personal is what stands out to me in the pitch.
Copy. And I just have one more quick question. I bounce back and forth between scripted and unscripted a lot. I'm curious, as a director, how do you approach unscripted directing versus scripted directing?
I don't know if I can make this quick. I mean, I've done far more unscripted than scripted. I'm actually doing more of that now, scripted. And maybe the faster is to say the similarities that I've found between them. I think that even in terms of dealing with being able to really work with actors versus working with people who aren't actors but are on screen, and the parallels there, and really trying to kind of prep people to be able to be emotionally vulnerable and available for the camera. I think it's serves two different parts of me, because I love the idea, I love in non-scripted where I still prep like it's scripted, basically. Like even to the point at some times where there's kind of storyboards, but of course none of that is going to work out. So it's just an exercise in improv, which is really exciting. And then on the other hand, it's really beautiful to be able to have a vision and actually try and get as close to that thing as possible. I think one, I feel more like I'm serving someone else's story, and in the other with scripted, I feel a little bit more like I'm really trying to serve my imagination and where those ideas come from, which I have beliefs about. So maybe I'll stop there. You know?
Thank you.
Hi, I love MILF Manor, by the way. Yeah, thank you. My name is Tatum, and I went to Chapman University. And then actually I was a coordinator at the Discovery Channel for about a year and a half. And then I quit that job, went to clown school, broke up with my boyfriend, and then moved here last week. So,
Oh my God.
Congratulations!
No, that's a round of applause.
Thank you.
Where's your
starting
show?
from scratch.
Come on.
You have all talked about pitch meetings and given some really good advice. I'm curious what your advice is for getting your foot in the door and getting those initial pitch meetings and kind of the appropriate route to go. And I'm sure you get inappropriate emails and ideas pitched to you all the time that you can't actually respond to. So yeah, I feel like I have good ideas.
I would say, because I'll start only because I feel like I get a lot of pitches, and I get a lot of unsolicited pitches. And actually, we literally cannot, I am not allowed by my legal team to look at them.
Yeah.
Right, so I either have to delete them, or sometimes I'll write to the person saying, listen, I cannot read this, but you can go to this producer's website, and Discovery has a producer's portal. But what I would say is a better idea than putting your idea on the producer's portal, as, even my Sara Helman's putting an idea into the portal. I'm not paying attention to it as much as the better idea is to go to a production company. Find a production company in New York. There's a ton of them. Watch our shows, McGilla, Sharp. There's a million production companies.
Or Philadelphia.
Or Nancy Glass Productions. And pitch them. Because if you can get a production company attached to your idea, you have 100 times better chance of getting in the door than if you are just an individual who does not have a production company attached, of getting that idea through. So that's my best advice. Go to a production company and pitch a bunch of them and see if that you get some traction there.
And part of that is also that, like, even if you had the best idea in the world, the network's like, let's do it, you'd be like, oh God, now what? Like, you don't have the infrastructure, right? Exactly. A production company, and that's where you watch a show, and if you see a documentary or a movie or a show that this is the vibe of what I want my idea to look like, that's possibly, you're shopping around too when you're looking and seeing what those programs are, and then you can have a partner that can then say, oh, we've got lawyers that can write up a contract, and we've got editors that could start, because when a network does say yes, it's, it's then suddenly like fast. It's slow and fast at the same time, but you want to be able to be nimble. You don't want to be like, let me build my team. No, you got to have your team ready, and that's where a production company can come in. Yeah.
Thank you. This has been really great, by the way.
Good.
Hi. My name is Arabia. I'm an ER doctor who is currently pursuing her MFA in film. I know it's been over 30 years since the last time I graduated from school. I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And my classmate is here right behind me. So my question is that, well, I was told by someone who's in the industry, more so they're in documentaries, that it's a bit difficult to get funding for travel shows, docuseries, right? The person who set that really off was the late Anthony Bourdain and, whatever. But it's been difficult to get funding for these travel shows. And it used to be a lot more prior to the pandemic than what we have now. What is your advice? What is the best way to get funding for, I know that you mentioned to link up with a production company, but even linking up with a production company doesn't always mean that you will get the funding, because now you have to think about distribution. Like, what is the best pathway? Because TV studios, from what I heard, are cutting a lot of their dollars away from that.
Travelogues, right? We call them travelogues, where it's a hosted, the Anthony Bourdain or somebody's going, Guy Fieri diners, what is that? Drive-ins and dives. Like that, they're harder to get ratings on primetime now, right? Now there's too many docuseries. It's hard to put just one person on the air traveling around. So they are really tricky. I would say I wouldn't put all your eggs in the travelogue basket. That's like my honest advice there.
I just came from work, so my eggs are definitely not in one basket.
I just think that because you're really relying on somebody who's got a larger than life personality. Guy Fieri, Anthony Bourdain. I can't even think of anybody else. Stanley Tucci. Like they're very, very tricky.
The most recent one with Tony Shalhoub, and that's a struggle. I think its performance is kind of struggling too.
Yeah, Stanley Tucci's show got canceled.
And I think there depending on the field, funding kind of happens differently. So like for a network, you're not even really raising the funds for it. The network is saying, yes, we want your idea. Now let's do it. Come up with a budget for us and we'll do it. Now, your world is a bit different. I can't speak to your world as far as like the fundraising side of it. But so for a lot of those, you don't have to, yes, you need the infrastructure, you need to be able to make that idea happen. But a network would say, oh, I like that idea. Let's build a budget and we will kind of go back and forth on that budget, and then we'll greenlight it. And so you can still formulate that idea and put together a great Canva and flesh it out and have a great idea without having any funding. Like you could just flesh that idea out and wait for that moment. And if you have talent, I think talent who's fronting that show is really crucially important for linear television, but there's other platforms too that might, actually if you can get a sponsor, like if it's a food travelogue, a corporation may want to have, everyone wants to have their own content now. Like Chick-fil-A started an app, like a content app or something. So there are brands that might want to do short form travelogue. Maybe you limit where it's traveling, but a corporate sponsor, one, can get something on the air on the right platform, or two, they could put it on their own platform. So don't give up on it. But think about different ways you could kind of crack that egg, knowing that you don't have to have the money up front. You could build the idea out first.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I made it. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. Hi, I'm Fran. I'm a junior at Lehman College for Media Communications and a content creator. So I'm really interested in the whole unscripted. I'm already doing a small thing where I do a unscripted/scripted vlog of my life in a humorous way of all my misadventures. So I was just wondering, do you have advice on how to balance the authenticity while keeping the audience engaged, while staying resonating at the same time? Like, how do you balance that? You don't?
Everyone's trying to figure out. I don't know. I'm glad to hear you say to be authentic. Again, I always go back to, I think that things work when people are authentic. I think, we built our network around, TLC is built around authentic people being their authentic selves. We're just following real life, right? And I feel like documentaries do that too, right? We're standing back and following it. keeping people engaged. Listen, I mean, that's like, we're all trying to figure out how to keep an audience engaged. But I think a great start is being authentic and being yourself, right? And people will come, hopefully. I don't know, maybe Giselle has better advice.
Well, what came to mind is music, like rhythm. I think you certainly are starting from a good place with authenticity, but you can be authentic over an event that's going to take 1 minute or an event that's going to take 30 minutes. And if you know you want to create something for people who don't have the longest of attention spans, then you create scenarios that can be cut in a very fast way. That's one thing that's coming to mind, is kind of about pacing and punctuation and having kind of emotional arcs and knowing what you want to get out of a scene and creating something that the person, even if it's yourself, can have a experience in a short period of time for your audience.
And if we can't tell which parts are fictionalized and which are real life, then they feel authentic, and maybe we just won't know. Try and don't make those unreal parts so exaggerated that they feel like it turns into a different show. But I want to see the show. I want to see this thing. I want to see it.
I'll give you my info before I leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Desiree Monet. I'm currently a grad student at Brooklyn College. So my question is for you. Yes, because you mentioned about what you want to see when people come in to pitch to you. So my question is, how much, because you're in development, so how much do we need to have already when we're walking into the room?
And I guess it depends on what the idea is, right? So typically, I think what sets pitches apart is when there's talent attached. I think a lot of TLC shows start with whether it's a family or it's, a person looking for love. Whatever that story is, I usually like to see some tape. And it doesn't have to be a long tape. In fact, I don't want it to be a long tape. I want it to be 1 to 3 minutes long. And it can be Zoom, and it can be down and dirty. And I can tell pretty quickly if that family has a spark or that person has a spark. I think about a show we did called Smothered, and I remember we just looked one tape, and it was a mother and daughter, and they were sharing a bed. And I remember watching the tape, and it was 1 minute, and thinking, there's an idea here. This is like this mother and daughter are way too connected, and there's something here, and we can cast this out. But I need to see some type of tape usually. If it's a format idea, usually I like to see some type of paper and kind of understand the format. Formats are trickier, though. I will say that what a producer can bring that's unique is unique access into a place or unique access to people. That's often what I like to see, and then to see tape. That's usually the best thing I can see. And that's something that you can own, right? Like, you have it, so then I have to work with you. You know what I mean? Like, you're bringing it in.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say tape.
All right, thank you so much.
Hello, hi. My name is Melody Simone. I'm a senior at NYU. And as a college student, kind of going to my next step, having interest in a lot of fields in entertainment, but not sure where to go. This question is for the panel, or if we don't have enough time, whoever answers first. But why are you guys where you're at today? Why are you guys staying in your career field, and why are you guys not nursing or teaching or plumbing?
Ooh, that's a rough time to ask that question. No,
Yes.
No, I'm teasing. I've been talking too much. You guys go first. Yeah. Oh, you know how people say stay in your lane? I am swerving all over the highway of life. I am just weaving and a bobbing, and but it's there's so many. You're looking at 3 people all in the same kind of business, but also in very different ways. And so I love making left turns and right turns and seeing, oh, I'll try this for a little while. Let's try live. I mean, it's been on paper looks like all over the place, but boy, it's made me feel alive. And I think this business is one where you can do a lot of things, a lot of creative things. You create micro families for each thing you do, and I don't think there's anywhere else like it. I just don't think there are many businesses where you can be part of something that you can feel so passionate about, and it's different every day. And some days are bad, but I said it in that reel where it looks like I still have my Christmas tree up in October. But like the good days are great. Like there are some exhilarating things about being in the business that we're all in, all of us in this room, and all of us will be in that aren't yet. And yes, there are challenges, but every job has its challenges. So if you have an inkling of passion or hope for this, I say just chase it, like go for it. So the secret to me is just like, I want to try this. Okay, let's try it, you know, and not necessarily thinking money. If you think money is going to make you happy, then find something else. Like, I mean, like, you might make a lot of money. Right, like take the day trading class they're doing out there. Like, money is great, and sometimes... Money is great, and sometimes it comes in waves, and sometimes and then other times you're like, oh, this is a lean month, but the joy you can get, you should love what you do. You should love what you do, because that's what will get you through the tough times, the challenging times. And there are those things, but the love is what, don't cry. The love is what will push you through. Yeah, the passion for it will push you through.
All right, let's end with the love. Thank you so much.